Viewers, very warm welcome to another episode of our regular weekly program, The Weekend. And I am Muhammad Ali.
I'm Murtaza Solangi.
Mr. Solangi, this week was very interesting and turbulent for a number of events and developments around the world and in this region as well. And recently, we've been hearing some media reports that China is perhaps having concerns about the security of its personnel and investment in Pakistan. But Pakistan's Foreign Office has clarified that right now there are no consideration for deployment of Chinese troops or military personnel in Pakistan. What's your information and perspective on this?
This information was floated first by India Today, and it was picked up by some of their talking heads, including quote-unquote security analysts, including one of their top spy agency research and analysis wing head. So this is clearly a well thought out propaganda to harm the prestige and reputation of Pakistan. That doesn't mean that the security of Chinese personnel is not important to Pakistan. Already, a lot of additional security protocols have been developed. But this was a bogus story. And then Baloch terrorist organizations, including BLA, also propagated that. It's clearly aimed at targeting Pakistan's security situation and harm the relations between China and Pakistan. The facts are just on the contrary. Neither China has requested to bring their own security personnel, nor Pakistan has agreed to such anything. So it's basically propaganda, since propaganda has been weaponized in the arena of social media. So you see it.
Excellent. And that brings me to another very important aspect, which is somewhat related to this particular clarification by Foreign Office, which is the recent rise in terrorist attacks, particularly in Balochistan. But I want you to explain the political and social dynamics related to the terrorist movement in Balochistan. Which political parties and media organizations and social activists are supporting the terrorists, and which individuals, parties, and activists are supporting the government and the state, and why?
Traditionally and historically, the Baloch nationalist movement, quote unquote, has been led by Baloch tribal chiefs, 50s, 60s, 70s, even 90s. But with the passage of time, they have been marginalized. Now, there is no popular political party that connects the people of Balochistan with the federal government. So there is a disconnect. And the terrorist organization like BLA and the hostile agencies and the regional powers that want to destabilize Pakistan for their own objectives, they have partnered with these terrorist organizations. So the only way you can handle this situation is by adopting a two-pronged strategy. There can be no negotiation with terrorists who kill innocent civilians and people from other provinces. and target the security forces. Their demands cannot be accepted. No country with any dignity and respect will accept those demands. So you have to fight it out using your kinetic power. But there is a flip side. The flip side is, since the Baloch tribal leaders have been marginalized, so you have to somehow take the oxygen out of the terrorists. They get this oxygen by propagating the victimhood, sense of victimhood in Baloch middle class and lower middle class and educated young people. The state has to introduce a kind of a Marshall Plan to address the social and economic needs and uplift of the Baloch people, especially the middle class and the working people. That would create conditions that the terrorists would not find easy recruits. And even if the hostile agencies and the regional powers want to destabilize Balochistan, they shall fail.
I think that's a very candid and comprehensive analysis. My own view is that decisively and comprehensively addressing the Balochistan issue requires a classical, as the strategic studies recommends, a dime fill model. It requires a proportionate and timely and adequate commitment and action in four key domains or four key elements of national power. That is diplomatic, economic, information, and military. In terms of diplomacy, it is very important that the misperception that the supporters and advocates of the Baloch insurgents are trying to create internationally needs a timely, well-informed, and convincing narrative at the diplomatic level, both at track 1 and track 2. In the information domain, within Pakistan as well, I think Pakistan's media, electronic, print, social media requires a very clear, consistent, and timely and accurate information and briefing from the Balochistan government, from the military, from the law enforcement agencies about the reality of all these actions that they take out, that they carry out. Because any delay, you yourself have been a Federal Minister of Information, any delay or gap in information is very timely exploited by those who promote the anti-state agenda by promoting a fake narrative. And then the state reacts later on with clarification, and it doesn't work in communication strategy. The third domain, as you rightly pointed out, is basically based on addressing the issues and the causes of the grievances, politically and economically. The engagement has to be peaceful, political, and within the framework of Pakistan's law and constitution to address whatever grievances anybody might have through very transparent and timely good governance and opportunities and incentives reaching to the lowest strata of Baloch society. And the last and the element of national power or the domain, it has to be the kinetic through military use, but very calculated, very targeted, very lawful, very responsible, in a manner that only those hardened criminals and elements who have waged violence against peaceful citizens of Pakistan, state and government need to be taken out. And I think it's very important that Pakistani people, political government, academia, media, religious scholars, universities, they all need to be on board and part of this national effort. It is not just a military operation. That's my modest view. But let's discuss another very important international development beyond Balochistan. That is the last week witnessed some very major activity between US and Pakistan. There have been some high-level exchanges and meetings, but also reports of some sanctions on Pakistani companies. Pakistan's Special Assistant to Prime Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Tariq Fatmi, is in Washington. He spoke at one of the leading US think tanks, Carnegie Endowment, yesterday, in which he showcased Pakistan's potential for investment and economic trade, tourism, and mining industry collaboration to the US. And yesterday, Pakistan's Interior Minister met the US acting ambassador, and there have been reports that both US and Pakistan have decided to start a security dialogue focusing on counterterrorism cooperation, which will be starting in June. But a third aspect of this this complex relationship has raised some heads and alarm that some of Pakistani companies have been sanctioned by the US. What do you make of these accelerated trends and developments in Pak-US relations?
Well, if you start from the negative developments, when it comes to sanctions against Pakistani companies also doing business with Chinese companies, this is an old issue. It has happened before. They try to, hurt Pakistan's missile program, and they think that by applying those sanctions, they will somehow stop it. Pakistan's deterrence because of Indian aggression is necessary, and Pakistan will continue working on its national security plans. So this is just business as usual, and it also shows the policy of US, where they have somehow tried to embolden India as a major power in the region, from civil nuclear deal to other defense agreements, including the offer to sell F-35 fighters. So that's an old thing. At the same time, we also saw a couple of congressmen who have also a major tilt towards Israel. They just introduced a bill, and here in Pakistan, we saw the PTI supporters celebrating it, that soon they will succeed in pressurizing Pakistani state to release Imran Khan, who's a convicted felon, and passing his sentence, and also any sanctions on Pakistani army senior officers, including army chief. Well, I don't see the passing of that bill from House of Representatives and Senate in the shape it has been presented. But even if it is, I seriously doubt that Trump administration would do anything about it. Just like in June last year, almost 98% people had supported a resolution, but Biden administration did nothing about it. So I don't see anything happening on it. I think the meeting of Natalie Baker with Musa Naqvi yesterday, and especially the visit of Tariq Fatmi, is very important, because they are trying to create and discuss the new venues of cooperation between United States and Pakistan, from economy to trade to security. And I think their efforts will succeed. And Trump, who's already under pressure after this current what is being known as this uh, this uh, communication fiasco with Jeffrey Goldberg. I think they have already too many things on their plate, and they would not open any front against Pakistan.
Indeed, I think it's a very elaborate and comprehensive analysis, Murtaza. My own modest view on these four complex dynamics in the cyclical and turbulent Pak-US relationship indicates that there are four divergent dynamics. The political domain, the strategic domain, the economic domain, and the diplomatic domain. I see very warm, cordial, respectful relationship improving at the diplomatic level, characterized by Mr. Fatmi's visit to Washington and him meeting important U.S. officials and congressmen, and the U.S. Diplomats actively engaging with Pakistani government officials and exploring different avenues of cooperation, particularly in counterterrorism, joint investments, and exploring areas of cooperation in the economic, mining, IT, education, and trade sectors. And that is a very positive sign, because US is Pakistan's biggest trading partner, because US is Pakistan's biggest export market, and Pakistan's economy heavily depends upon the sustainability and growth of this export market. The second dynamic, which is also positive, is the improving realization, which is shared in Washington and Islamabad and Rawalpindi, that terrorism is a global challenge, which was underscored by the recently released US official annual intelligence assessment of the threats that the US faces. And you've noticed that the first threat that the 32-page document indicates and highlights is the rise of terrorist organizations. And you know very well, on page 7, it clearly mentioned Pakistan's name as a victim of TTP's attack, which the US also recognizes as a terrorist organization, which has in the past maintained close ties with Al-Qaeda and supported plans and actions of attacking terrorist movement attacks inside the US. So that is an area which immediately has been recognized as an area of mutual cooperation, and we'll see a formal dialogue on counterterrorism between US and Pakistan in June this year. The third domain is the strategic domain, which has remained a sore point in Pak-US relations for almost, 45 years. From the famous Henry Kissinger visit to warn Prime Minister Bhutto, in which he warned him that you will be made a horrible example if you don't, roll back the nuclear program. But from that day till today, whether we have had a civilian government, a democratic government, a military ruler, I think everybody has consistently and not only protected Pakistan's nuclear and missile program, but advanced it consistently beyond our political differences. And one thing which is very important to clarify to our viewers is that these sanctions are not Pakistan specific. Other countries have also been sanctioned. That includes China, that includes UAE, that includes Taiwan, which have very close security relations with the US. Now, this indicates that this is not something directly aimed against Pakistan, but is primarily aimed at discouraging the international community from close collaboration with China, which the US has recently formally identified as the biggest global challenger to the US as per their recently released formal intelligence threat assessment. And it should be seen in that context. And the last point, which is very important to highlight, is that since Pakistan's missile program and nuclear program are a fruit of Pakistan's own efforts and resources, and these sanctions will not affect Pakistan's missile or nuclear program. or the credibility of deterrence. And it is also important to remind our friends in the US that US has consistently expressed the hope that strategic stability is maintained as a guarantee for durable peace and security in South Asia. And Pakistan hopes and expects from the Trump administration that this commitment will continue, because this also promotes US interest of maintaining peace and security in South Asia and preventing any conflict, crisis, or aggression against Pakistan. And for that, Pakistan's minimum credible deterrence is a cost-effective guarantee for peace, which poses no threat to any other country, particularly the US. So that thing, I think our diplomatic leadership must also take up with their counterparts in the US to clarify these misperceptions with the Indian lobbies trying to create that Pakistan has no ill motives or even interests in targeting or threatening any country beyond prevention of aggression from India. The last part was the political domain, which is your forte. But my modest view is that definitely PTI is very active in the US, trying desperately to woo and influence the US congressmen individually who are sensitive to the constituency politics. However, the US government and state stance has been repeatedly articulated and reiterated by the State Department, you know very well, and they have, despite repeated questioning and probing by pro-PTI journalists, they have declined to sympathize with that concern or stop short of interfering in Pakistani domestic politics, which perhaps is the ultimate evidence or reflection of their true policy towards Pakistan. You mentioned another very important development regarding Pakistan and the Middle East. Do you think there's anything you want to add on that as well?
No, I think we have covered quite a ground today, and there is nothing major happening there, except Pakistan continues to have excellent relations with the Gulf countries, especially with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And that would help Pakistan's relations with United States as well, since MBS has committed to invest around a whopping $1 trillion in the US. So I think this will help the relations between Pakistan and the US.
Indeed, because that was a welcome development in Pakistan after the high-level visit of Pakistani Prime Minister and Army Chief to Saudi Arabia. And today, IMF has confirmed that the 2.3 billion financial facility that they have offered Pakistan is going to be made available as soon as possible. And you must have noticed that in the last couple of weeks, Pakistan's stock market has also shown a very positive and rising sentiment, which reflects greater investor confidence both at home and abroad. So I think with these few words, viewers, this was a short and crisp episode of The Weekend in which we attempted to analyze and map some of the most significant global, regional, and national developments. Don't forget to share your views and comments and keep watching this program. Thank you so much for joining us.